Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are decoding a really powerful musical tool that's kind of been hiding in plain sight. It's a visual guide that once you get it, well, it could totally change the way you think about writing and playing music. Forever.
Okay, let's just dive right in with this question from a Reddit user that honestly, I think every single musician has asked themselves. You know the feeling. You're sitting there, instrument in hand, and you just wonder, is there some kind of secret formula, a system for finding the notes and chords that just work?
Well, it turns out a lot of people think the answer is a big yes. You know, music can feel like it's all about instinct, just what sounds good. But what if there was an actual map, a guide that could show you the hidden connections between all the notes and keys, basically pointing you to those good sounds every time?
And that map, it's called the Circle of Fifths. Now, I know it might look a little intimidating at first glance, maybe like something you'd find in a really dense music theory textbook, but trust me, it's one of the most practical and powerful tools you could ever learn.
Yeah, our sources really nail it. They call it a visual tool, a roadmap, even a harmonic cheat sheet. And that's what it is. It's there to help you remember key signatures, build chord progressions that just sound right, and honestly, unlock a whole new level of creativity.
So how does this thing actually work? It looks like a clock, right? But instead of telling you the time, it organizes the entire universe of Western music, and it all boils down to one single building block.
And that building block is the perfect fifth.
So why perfect? Well, it's because that space between the two notes, it has this incredibly stable, harmonious, and just plain pleasing sound to our ears. The Circle of Fifths gets its name because it lays out all 12 notes of music in a continuous cycle of these perfect fifths.
Think of it just like a clock face. Right at the top, at 12 o'clock, you've got C major. It's the key with 0 sharps or flats. Now, if you take one step clockwise to 1 o'clock, you land on G major, which has 1 sharp. Take another step to D major, boom, 2 sharps. And if you go the other way, counterclockwise from C, each step adds a flat. F major gets 1 flat, B flat major gets 2, and so on all the way around.
And of course, musicians have a brilliant little trick for remembering this. For the sharps, you just need to remember this sentence. Father Charles goes down and ends battle. And for the flats, simple. You just say it backwards. Battle ends and down goes Charles's father. It's kind of silly, but it works perfectly.
Now here's a really interesting bit of history. A lot of people think the circle goes all the way back to the ancient Greek philosopher Pythagoras, but as our sources show, there's no actual evidence for that. The diagram as we know it, it actually showed up for the first time in the late 1600s, created by a Ukrainian composer named Nikolai Daletsky as a way to teach composition.
Okay, let's get to the really good stuff. Let's see how this thing goes from a cool diagram to an actual practical tool for finding chords that sound amazing together. This is where the circle really feels like a cheat sheet for writing songs.
So if you look at a full circle of fifths, you'll notice there's an inner ring. That ring holds the relative minor for every major key on the outside. And relative just means they share the exact same DNA, the same notes, same sharps, same flats. For C major, its relative buddy is A minor. They both use only the white keys on a piano.
And this relationship is huge for songwriting. It means you can completely change the whole emotional vibe of your song. You can go from bright and happy to something way more dark or dramatic, just by shifting your focus from a major key to its relative minor. You're using the same notes, but you're creating a totally different mood.
All right, check this out. This might be one of the coolest tricks the circle has up its sleeve. You know that I-5-5 chord progression? Those 3 major chords that are the absolute foundation for literally thousands of pop, rock, and folk songs? The circle lets you find them in about 2 seconds.
Seriously, it could not be easier. Just pick any key on the circle, that's your home base, your I chord. The chord immediately to its right, that's your V chord. The one immediately to its left, that's your 4. So for the key of C, you look right, you get G. You look left, you get F. And there they are, C, F, and G, the backbone of modern music laid out right in front of you.
But it gets even better. Using that same little area, you can find pretty much all the main diatonic chords. Those are the chords that naturally belong in that key. You've got your 3 big major chords all clustered together, the I, 4, and 5. And sitting right inside the circle are their relative minors, your V, 2, and 3 chords. It creates this perfect little neighborhood of 6 chords that are basically guaranteed to sound fantastic with each other.
But wait, the circle isn't just about staying in one place. It's not just for finding chords inside a single key. It's also a map for traveling between keys, which is a technique musicians call modulation. So if you ever want to change keys in the middle of a song without it sounding clunky or weird, the circle is your best friend. Keys that are right next to each other are closely related. Why? Because their scales are almost identical. If you move from C to G, for example, you only have to change one single note. And because they're so similar, making that jump feels totally natural and smooth to the listener.
And composers have this extra clever trick to make that transition even smoother. It's called a pivot chord. The idea is you play a chord that actually exists in both keys, the one you're leaving and the one you're going to. It acts like a harmonic doorway, just gently leading your listener's ear from one key into the next.
So, why does all this work? Why is moving around in fifths so incredibly powerful and pleasing to our ears? Well, it all comes down to a really fundamental idea in music: tension and release.
Music creator Cadence Hira explains it perfectly. Our ears are basically wired to love the sound of resolution. Moving down by a fifth feels like a little ta-da, a mini arrival. It's like we're constantly landing in the right spot, and it creates this tumbling, super satisfying feeling of forward momentum.
And this powerful pattern, moving through chords by following the circle, is called a circle progression. And I'm telling you, it is everywhere. From jazz standards like Autumn Leaves, to massive pop anthems like I Will Survive, even 90s funk hits like Virtual Insanity. Once you learn to recognize that sound, you will hear it absolutely everywhere you go.
So I guess the big takeaway here is that the circle of fifths is not just some dusty, abstract diagram for music nerds. No way. It is the living, breathing blueprint behind the music that has moved people for hundreds of years. It's a map of what sounds harmonically right to us.
And that, of course, brings us to the final, most exciting thought. The circle of fifths gives you the map. It shows you all the well-worn paths that lead to beautiful, satisfying music. But maybe its greatest power is this: once you know the rules, you also know exactly how and when to break them. So the real question is, what kind of music could you create if you decided to take a path that isn't even on the map?